स्टार्ट करो. Welcome back, participants. Uh, Now, this next session will be taken up by Professor Dr. S.V. Bonde sir, and his topic is design aspects of wavelet filters. Now, let me remind again to all the participants, in this 5 days program, we have tried to invite the speakers from different domains, and moreover we have stressed upon the flow, the process by which research can be carried out. If you have any doubts regarding the way to go ahead with the topic or how to find a topic, this forum is very well open. You can ask sir, and sir will definitely guide you in this respect also. Okay. Now I request Professor Bonde sir to start the session. Thank you, sir.
Samarth, is my presentation visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shall we start now then?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So friends, if you remember what we have covered in the last lecture, that we have framed one problem that is a quite old problem but still having its equal importance nowadays. That is single trial visual Young potential estimation. That is estimation of single trial VP, that is visual Young potential. That is in time domain as well as time frequency domain. See, we are dealing it with time frequency domain. What then by time frequency domain? It's generally you are using a wavelet theory here. Wavelet, or which is generally called as the time frequency decomposition. Okay. So yesterday we have seen that the signal is very weak, having an amplitude of near about zero point 0.5 to 20 microvolt, and the noise associated with that particular signal, that is VP signal, is that is EEG, is having a amplitude of near about 20 to near about 200 to 300 microvolts. Means we are having a very strong noise. Signal is very weak. Signal to noise ratio is very poor, minus 20 dB to minus 30 dB near about. And we are having the signal and the noise such that they do not follow any standard statistical distribution. And that's why statistical methods may not work here. The another thing is that the spectrums of noise as well as the spectrum of signal both are overlapping, completely overlapping, and that's why frequency selective filters cannot also work here. That's why we are trying to explore the another possibility. If we cannot separate the signal and noise in the frequency, that is in the frequency domain, because the spectrum is overlapping, then why not to explore a combination of the domain, that is time as well as time frequency domain. And that's why we have tried it for that one. So we have devised a
Hello,
quite good
sir.
explanation scheme. Yes, please.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Hello, now. Hello.
Now it's okay, sir.
Okay. So we are exploring the another possibility, that can we separate the signal and noise in time frequency domain, a combined time frequency domain, that is called as generally the wavelet domain. Okay. So near about 30 to 40% of the work has been done in the time domain, and the remaining work has been done in near about time frequency domain. Okay. So see here what we are doing here. This particular concept will require a knowledge of linear algebra here. So we are considering that a signal subspace, and this means the space which will be spanned by a particular kind of signal. So we'll assume here that VEP signals, they are spanning one space, that is called as a function space or signal space. We are treating signal as a function, and that's why we are saying that the VEP signals are from the VEP subspace. Now, VEP subspace, how do you define the VEP subspace? You are saying that all the visually evoked potentials can be spanned by some basis functions. And we are calling these basis functions have been generated adaptively. Now, we are saying here that these are the basis functions phi 1j, phi 1j, phi 2j, phi 3j, phi lj. These are the basis functions. Okay. So we say that with the help of or with the linear combination of these basis functions, the whole family of visual evoked potentials will be generated. Okay. As just you are saying that you are having a basis vectors, the orthogonal basis vectors and orthogonal basis vectors will form a vector space, so that any vector in that space can be represented with the help of those basis vectors. So similar concept has been used here. We are saying here that this phi 1j, phi 2j up to phi lj, these are the basis functions, means we are having L number of basis functions, and this L number of basis functions will totally span the visual evoked potential space, that is VEP subspace or VEP space. Now, how they have been generated? They have been generated from the template signal. And what is that template signal? How the template signal has been derived? The template signal has been derived from the average visual evoked potentials. What is the best available signal with us now? We are having an ensemble. That is, there are so many trials recorded. Suppose we'll assume here that we have recorded 30 to 100 trials. Okay. So if we have recorded 30 to 100 trials, we can calculate the average VP by taking the average of this ensemble, that is called average VP. Okay, we have seen the average VP. Suppose I'll show you that these are the individual VPs and these are the average VP. Okay, so this average signals, which can be easily computed, can be used as a template signal. So this VEP signal, that is average VEP signal, is used as a template signal. So this is the average VEP signal given here as a template signal. And by subband decomposition, the basis functions has been generated. Now, how this subband decomposition is achieved? The whole wavelet subject is revolving here. That is subband decomposition, means we are decomposing this into orthogonal basis, means phi 1j up to phi lj. These are the orthogonal basis signals. Okay. As you are knowing here that when you are applying a wavelet to a particular signal, it will give you a subband signal in the time frequency domain. So these are the subband signals in the time frequency domain. Okay, you are using here wavelet. Now, this subband decomposition can be achieved by many methods. So what we have used here, we have used uniform filter bank, we have used non-uniform filter bank that we have designed, then wavelet packet transform. Okay, so there are many more alternatives which are available for the subband decomposition, or you can design your own filter bank that will decompose the template signal into the basis functions. Now, what are the requirement of these basis functions? We are saying here that this basis function should be orthogonal. You are knowing that in case of any mathematical transformation, we insist that the transformation should be orthogonal. And you might have heard the term in the wavelet theory, that is compactly supported orthogonal wavelet. So basically we are using here compactly supported orthogonal as well as bioorthogonal wavelets. Okay. So with the help of this wavelet decompositions, we are giving the signal, that is the template signal, to a wavelet. Means we are using a particular kind of wavelet here, and with the help of that wavelet, we are generating these basis functions. How these basis functions has been generated, that will come into the further due course of this presentation. Okay. Now, with the same subband decomposition, identical subband decomposition scheme, we are decomposing also the single trial to be estimated, that is Yj. Yj indicate the trial to be estimated. So we are having such 100 trials, suppose. Okay. So J is varying from 1 to 100. So we are having Y1 means it's the first signal. Okay. Y1, Y2, Y3. These are the signals. These are the single trials. Okay. So when we are saying that Y1 means the first trial has been given, which is having suppose 512 samples. Okay. So Y1, this particular signal is having near about 100. Hello, are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir.
Huh. So we are having Y1 to Y100 signals, and every signal is having near about 512 samples. Okay. So every signal that is to be estimated has been given to this subband decomposition scheme here, and we are getting, these are the subspace representation of a single trial, that is called Z1J, Z2J, Z3J. J indicate that it is a trial number, and 1, 2, 3, 4, this is M is the intermediate trial, and this is the L, means these are the subband signals. Okay. Z1 means first subband signal of jth trial. Z2 means second subband signal of the jth trial, and so on like this one. Okay. Now what we are doing here, for every subband, we are designing an adaptive filter, that is BMG, BM. It is a filter. And the duty of this filter, we are designing this filter in such a way that we should have a minimum error, minimum mean square error between the respective subband. Suppose if I am taking this M subband from here, the basis functions belonging to M subband and the basis functions of the same M subband of the trial to be estimated, there should be minimum mean square error between these ones. And that's why we are designing this filter in such a way that between subband of the basis function and the subband of the trial to be estimated, the error should be minimum. What is the error? This is the error here. How error has been calculated? That is this ZMJ, this particular signal, minus this phi m multiplied by Bm. Now, why multiplied by Bm? I am using here, means the convolution. Filter has to be operated by the convolution operation. Okay. So this convolution operation I am converting first into a matrix operation. And that's why I am saying here that this is a matrix operation. EMJ will be equal to ZMJ minus phi MBM. So this will give me an error vector. Okay. So the error vector, when you are of this particular error vector, when you are calculating the mean squared error, it should be minimum. Okay. So when this subband is convolved with this particular filter, a signal will be generated. So the mean square error is compared between this generated signal and the respective subband signal of the trial to be estimated. Okay. So this minimum error criteria will be considered here. So such adapted basis function will be taken here. Okay. So when this particular process will be carried out for all the basis functions, and when you are combining all these basis functions, now what we are doing here, we are trying to adapt these basis functions with the single trial subband to be estimated. So this adapted basis function has been added together to form the estimated signal. So this is a complete estimation scheme. to understand this estimation scheme in theoretical sense. So we can go in the mathematical manner in the next coming few minutes. See here that again I'll once you tell in short, we are having a subband decomposition scheme. So we are having the same subband decomposition scheme for the template signal as well as the jet trial to be estimated. It's one and the identical subband estimation scheme. Okay, so subband estimation scheme will be responsible for converting the template signal into basis function as well as the single trial signal to be estimated into the subband decomposed signal. Now, in these respective bands, we are trying to reduce the error. We are trying to reduce the error in the minimum mean square error format, in the error form. Okay. So we are designing a filter such that between the basis function and the respective subband of the trial to be estimated, we are trying to keep the error minimum and we are adapting this basis function in such a way that the error should be minimum. Means this filter is responsible for shifting these basis functions phi mj to the left or to the right, as well as it will adjust it into the amplitude in such a manner that between these two signals, the minimum mean square error criteria will be achieved. So when the minimum mean square criteria will be achieved, at that time you can say that these respective subband basis functions have adapted the characteristics of the respective subband to be estimated. And such adapted subband basis functions will be considered. This is nothing but the estimated basis function. So such linear combination of these estimated basis functions will give you the estimated jet trial. Okay. So this has been shown here that the filter will be designed on the minimum mean square error criteria. So if I am having 100 trials to be estimated, and if I am having 5 subbands, then basically I am able to design, or I should be able to design 100 multiplied by 500 filters, adaptive filters, that is BM. Okay, and this process should be automated. This filter should be designed automatically. Means the filter should be unique for a respective trial, as well as it should also be unique in the respective subband. Okay, that's why I am oftenly saying here that if I am having 100 trials to be estimated, and if every trial has been decomposed into 5 bands, so 100 multiplied by 5, we are designing 500 adaptive filters, okay, which are all unique. Now we'll go to the mathematical treatment, how these filters has been designed, okay, and how the scheme has to be implemented. So do you have any difficulty in this estimation scheme? This is a block schematic of the estimation scheme. So if you do not have any difficulty, we'll go in the further direction for the mathematical analysis. So now the mathematical analysis. You are saying here that the single trial to be estimated, Yj, is the trial to be estimated. And we assume here that Yj is nothing but the recorded VEP signal. And it is formed by some signal component, that is Sg of n plus Vj of n is the noise component. Means noise has been added. Okay, the observed signal is the combination of signal and noise. S is the signal and V is the noise. Now we want to remove, or we want to estimate the noise. Either you estimate the noise and subtract it from the signal, observed signal, or simply you estimate the signal. We say that we want to estimate Sg of n. Okay. So Yj, we are using this particular notation. Yj is equal to Yj of 1, Yj of 2, and Yj of n. And we are having here 512 samples in every trial. Okay. Means Yj is having Y1 to Yj of 512. This. So we are having an additive noise model. Yj is equal to Sj plus Vj. Now we consider here that there are L linearly independent basis functions. Okay. See here that these basis functions, they are orthogonal. Okay. We are calling them as a basis function. So they should qualify the properties required for the basis function. And what are the qualities which are required for any kind of orthogonal basis functions? First thing is that they should be orthogonal. Second thing is that they should be orthonormal. Okay. Means I am saying here that in the strict manner, if they are not orthogonal in the mathematical sense, they should be orthogonal on the frequency sense basis. Now, what do you mean by frequency basis? Means their frequency functions are not overlapping. Their frequency functions should be separate. Okay, and as the frequency functions are separated, you can say that they are orthogonal on the basis of frequency separation. Means this subband decomposition is such that phi1 of j is spanning some different frequency band. Phi2 of j is spanning another frequency band. Phi3 of j is spanning another frequency band, and so on like this one. So if the signal is having, suppose, the bandwidth of 0 to 100 hertz, and if you are having 10 basis functions, then the first basis function is spanning the frequency band from 0 to 100. The second basis functions will span the frequency band from 10 to 20 hertz. The third will span the frequency band from 20 to 30 hertz, and so on like this one. Means the frequency functions are not overlapping. Okay, there should be a minimal overlapping of the frequency. Okay, so we are having a set of L linearly independent basis functions. See, we are showing here L basis functions. These basis functions are linearly independent basis functions. Okay, now by the basis functions we mean that the component of the signal means the basis functions. Component means decomposed components of the signal in different orthogonal or nearly orthogonal subspaces. Okay, so the spaces generated by these basis functions will be orthogonal or nearly orthogonal. These L basis functions spans the signal as well as the noise subspace. Now see here that we are saying here that we are using here the template signal. Though the template signal is giving you a better kind of estimation, but still there is a noise associated with it. Okay, means basically this particular signal, that is the template signal, is having some signal component and noise component. Okay, that's why these basis functions will span the signal subspace as well as the noise subspace. Okay, now what we want to do here, that we want to identify which basis functions will span the signal subspace and which basis functions span the noise subspace. If we able to identify which basis functions are spanning the signal subspace, only use those basis functions here for the estimation and drop the remaining one. Okay, see, once again I am saying, see, the scheme is complicated. Means what I am deciding here, out of this L basis functions, I have to identify how many basis functions or which basis functions are spanning the signal substrate. Once I identify those basis functions, I'll use those basis functions here for the estimation, and those remaining will span the noise subspace, so I will not use them for the estimation. Okay, so see here, now how we'll go in the further direction. The L basis function spans the signal subspace as well as the noise subspace in which the observed VEP signal reside. Okay, now the basis functions are derived from the relatively high SNR signal. We are saying that the template signal is basically average VEP signal which is having better SNR. Okay, again go to the estimation scale. This particular template signal is having better SNR as compared to the jet trial to be estimated, and that's why we are saying here that we are having a better decomposed subband signals, to which we are calling as a basis function. We are treating them as a basis function. Okay, now as the template is derived from a few observed VEP signals or single trial signals to be estimated, it incorporates a priori information about the signal. See, there is a very little kind of a priori information required here in the signal, and as the signals has been derived from the single trial signals to be estimated, means if you are taking one data set recorded from the one subject, you are having a unique basis function for that particular subject. Okay, now when you are using this particular estimation scheme for the signals recorded from one subject, at that time the basis functions has been recorded from that set which has been recorded from the subject number 1. Now when you are using the same scheme for the second subject, now at that time you are generating these basis functions from the second subject's recorded signal. Means for every single subject the basis functions are different. Okay, and as the basis functions has been generated from the signal to be estimated itself, it definitely contains a priori information. Okay, now at the same time the observed single trial VEP signal Yj is also decomposed into L subbands that we have seen. Means we are using the same identical subband decomposition scheme for the decomposition of the template signal as well as the signal to be estimated. Okay, so we are having here Zm, that is the subband signal of the trial to be estimated, and we are having basis function. So basis functions has been generated from the template signal. Again, I am telling you the same thing. Basis functions has been generated from the template signal, which is average VEP, and Zm signal has been generated from the trials to be estimated. Okay, now both these signals has been obtained by using the same decomposition. Now with each basis function there is associated a filter, or this is generally called as a coefficient vector Bm. Bm is a filter of length p plus 1 such that the estimated signal in the mth subband can be computed as, that is Sm hash is equal to phi m multiplied by Bm. Okay, again remember this equation, Sm is equal to phi m Bm. Okay, again going back, see here, what is this? This is Sm. Okay, this is Sm phi m Bm. This is Sm generated here. How it has been generated? Sm, this particular phi m of the jth trial, phi m has been convoluted with this design filter. Okay, now this convolution, this phi m convolved with Bm, this particular convolution we want to convert into the matrix operation. Okay, and that's why we are coming here. Okay, see here. So phi m is equal to this Sm is equal to phi m convolved with Bm, and this phi m Bm convolution operation has to be converted into a matrix operation by this one. So phi m is the convolution matrix generated from this phi m, small phi m. Capital phi m is a matrix, this capital phi m. Okay, so this capital phi m and this capital phi m. How this capital phi m has been generated? By small phi m, that is the basis function, this basis function. See this phi m. Okay, this phi m. Okay, so you are knowing that how the convolution operation has to be converted into a matrix operation. So this is a convolution matrix, phi 1, phi 2 up to phi n. You are putting 0 here, again the same has been phi 1, phi 2, phi 3 up to phi n. Now you are putting 2 zeros here, and then phi 1, phi 2, phi 3. Again you are putting 4 zeros, and so on like this one. Okay, finally this phi 1, phi 2 up to this one, and phi 1, phi 2, phi 3 up to phi n. Okay, so and Bm is nothing but this is Bm0, Bm1, Bm2. This is a matrix. Okay, this is a vector. This is a two-dimensional matrix. This is a single-dimensional matrix means vector. Okay, now see here that this is n plus p by p plus 1 matrix, phi, capital phi, and this is p plus 1 multiplied by 1. Okay, multiplied by means by p plus 1 by 1. This is the dimension of the matrix Bm. Okay, and this is the dimension of the matrix this phi n. Now here this is p plus 1 columns and p plus 1 rows. That's why they are compatible. Okay, and therefore you can perform the matrix multiplication. When you perform the matrix multiplication, you will get the signal which is having, that is Sm. This Sm signal you are getting, which is having of the size of n plus p multiplied by p plus 1. N plus p by 1 means this will be a single dimensional signal. N plus p by 1. This common dimension will not appear there. Okay, this is the common dimension. P plus 1, p plus 1. So when you multiply these two, at that time the signal will be n plus p by 1, means it is a single dimensional signal. Okay. So I am saying here that the S hat, now I have got a single signal here. Okay, single estimation, that is single subband estimation. I have got this particular signal. Okay, how many such signal I'll get? L such signals I'll get when phi 1 is convolved with B1, phi 2 is convolved with B2, phi 3 is convolved with B3, phi 4 convolved with B4, and phi L convolved with BL. Okay, so I am having L number of such signals, and this L number of signals has been added together. Okay, so this L number of subject signals has to be added. Now here it should be L. Okay, but why it is not L? Why I am using M here? Because I am saying that out of this L subband signals, the M subband signals which are belonging to the signal subspace has been considered only, and the remaining, that is L minus M, are spanning the noise subspace. That's why they have not been considered here, and that's why the final estimated signal has been given by only M subband signal, and remaining subband signals has been dropped. Now how to select those subband signals, that we'll see in few minutes. Okay, so the estimated signal, now this same equation has been written in the matrix form. It is nothing more than that. Okay, now see here that the most important thing is that how to determine the filter. Okay, that is BM. Now see here that you are having here this estimation scheme. How you are calculating error? EM will be equal to ZM minus phi MBM. Okay, what we are doing here, we are dropping the subscript J. Okay, because it is for jth trial. We'll add this subscript after some time. That is, what is EM? The error associated with the mth basis function will be equal to ZM minus phi MBM. Okay, so the same thing has been done here. Okay, so ZM will be equal to phi MBM plus EM. That's why what is EM? EM will be ZM minus phi MBM. Okay, see here, the same thing has been written. Okay, if I'll take it here like this one, so see here, it is one and the same thing. EM will be equal to ZM minus phi MBM. Only J has been dropped here. The subscript J has been dropped, which will regain after some time. Okay, so EM will be equal to phi MBM. See here that EM will be equal to ZM minus phi MBM. Now sum of the square errors is given by the Euclidean norm. You are calculating the Euclidean norm of this error. Okay, and what is this Euclidean norm J, which has been computed from this EM, which is nothing but the function of phi MBM, is computed as EM transpose multiplied by EM. Okay, now EM trans, this is EM. Okay, it's a column vector. Okay, when we say that it's a transpose, it will becomes a row vector. Okay, multiplied by EM. Okay, so EM transpose multiplied by EM will be a single value, a single scalar value, and that is nothing but the mean squared error. Okay, so what is this JM? JM is nothing but a mean squared error, or you can say that it's the Euclidean norm of the error. So this Euclidean norm of the error should be minimum. See here that if you are saying that the error mean square error will be given by EM transpose multiplied by EM. So first calculate EM transpose. If EM is given by this one, EM transpose will be ZM transpose minus phi M transpose BM transpose. Okay, I have taken the transpose of this. Okay, now EM is this one. Now what is J? How J has to be computed? J is nothing but EM transpose multiplied by EM. So this is EM transpose multiplied by this EM. Okay, so see here that ZM transpose multiplied by ZM. ZM transpose multiplied by ZM. Now Zm transpose multiplied by phi MBM. Zm transpose multiplied by phi MBM with negative sign. Okay. Now the next term. This is minus sign. Okay. Minus sign I am keeping here. So Bm transpose phi M transpose multiplied by Zm. Bm transpose phi m transpose multiplied by Zm. And finally this minus minus will becomes plus. Bm transpose phi m transpose
আমি তোমাকে উঠতে বলেছি আর নয়।
multiplied by phi m b. Okay. So this is the Euclidean norm. Okay. Now this Euclidean norm will indicate the error. Okay. So the minimum norm with respect to Bm will be given by, I want the minimum value. This is the error. I want the minimum error. Okay. So when I want a minimum error, I should take the derivative of this one with respect to Bm. Means I want Bm in such a way that the error should be minimum. That's why J phi m Bm, its derivative with respect to Bm. So dou Jm divided by dou Bm. Okay, so dou Gm divided by dou Bm. Taking the derivative of Gm with respect to Bm will be equal to this one. Now we should equate it to 0 because the error should be minimum. Okay, that's why equating it with 0. So when we are equating with 0, what you are getting, this negative term will goes here. That's why this 2 and 2 will get cancelled, and phi transpose Z is equal to phi m transpose phi m Bm. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to calculate Bm. Okay, and I am saying that it is a minimum error. As it is a minimum error, it is an optimum vector. That's why I am treating it as an optimum vector, that is Bm, that is mth optimum vector or mth optimum filter will be given by this multiplied by, I am taking this phi m transpose and phi m to the another side. That's why it will becomes inverse, because in matrix there is no division operation, there is the inverse operation. That's why this Bm will be equal to, I am having phi m transpose phi m, its inverse. Okay, the inverse of this one multiplied by phi m transpose Zm. Okay, by simply rearrangement of this equation. So this is the optimum coefficient vector will be given by, means basically the filter which will try to maintain the minimum norm by adapting the basis function with respect to the subband of the trial to be estimated is given by this Bm optimum. This is the filter, required filter. Okay. Now the subscript that we have discarded has to be added here. Okay. So Bmj optimum will be equal to phi m transpose phi m inverse multiplied by phi m transpose Zmj. Okay. I can introduce it like this one. See. Now Bm optimized in the Zth trial will be equal to Bmj, and this J has been introduced here. Okay. So now if I am having m value, m means it is indicating the number of basis function. Okay. So if I am having suppose 5 basis functions, J indicates the trials to be estimated. How many trials I am estimating? Suppose 100 trials. So 100 multiplied by 5, you are getting here 500 filters. Okay. So Bm optimum, Bmj optimum is equal to phi m transpose phi m, taking the inverse multiplied by phi m transpose Zmj. Okay. So this one is the important equation, but there is one problem with this particular equation. And what is that problem? The problem here is that it involves the inverse matrix inverse operation. Means I am having phi m transpose. What is phi m? Phi m is nothing but the convolution matrix constructed out of the basis function phi m, small phi m. Okay. So this inverse operation, and you are knowing that for inverse operation you are having here, if you are observing this basic system, see here that again we are going to the back side. If you are observing this Sm is equal to phi m Bm, you want to estimate Bm. What is the dimension of Bm? Is near about 1 to m. I am saying here that Bm is a filter. So how many coefficients you will require in the filter? Suppose if I am having 512 samples to be filtered. if I am having a signal which is having 512 samples in it, and I want to design a filter, so what should be the length of the filter? It should be optimum near about 15, 16, 16 to 20, not more than that. Okay. Or you cannot say that, yeah, I'm having 100 sample signals and also I'm having a 120 sample filter to filter it. It is generally not happening. Okay. So if you are observing this particular filter, this filter is filtering this signal, YM signal. How many samples we are having here? 512 samples. Okay. So to filter this signal, which is having 512 samples, we are designing a filter which will have at the most 20 number of coefficients. Okay. So how many parameters you want to estimate? 20 suppose. Okay. And what is the size of the system? If you are observing the size of the system, so here n plus p, n is 512. Okay, p is nothing but the size of the filter. Okay, so 512 plus 20. Okay, means basically you are having, this is a overdetermined system, means you are having many more observations, but number of estimate or things to be estimated will be very small, and that's why this is overdetermined system. Basically, you might be knowing, if you are having simultaneous linear equation systems in numerical method or computational techniques, there are three cases. When you are having number of equations and number of unknowns, if they are same, it is a quite and well and good system. If you are having number of equations more and number of variables to be determined or number of unknowns to be determined are very less, then it is a overdetermined system. And there is an underdetermined system when number of equations are very less, but the number of unknowns are very high. At that particular time, it's underdetermined. So we are having a overdetermined systems. We are having many more observations and less number of unknowns to be determined. We are having more than 512 or number of observations, and we are having at the most 20 variables to be determined, or 20 unknowns to be determined, and that's why we are having overdetermined systems. So such underdetermined or overdetermined systems, these both type of systems poses a problem in calculating the inverse, and that's why you are going towards the pseudo inverse. And pseudo inverse means I am not going into much more detail of that linear algebra. Pseudo inverse means basically you are going towards singular value decomposition scheme, SVD. Okay, so which will give you a stable algorithm for the computation of the inverse, which is generally called as a pseudo inverse. So instead of calculating here inverse, most of the time you are calculating the pseudo inverse, because this will becomes most of the time a ill conditioned system, and solving the ill conditioned system poses a problem. Even most of the softwares which are designed for calculating the inverse of the matrix, suppose MATLAB or any Mathematica, any kind of software, they provide you a kind of singular value decomposition systems that will pose a better algorithm for computation of a pseudo inverse. And that's why when you are applying that algorithm, you are getting BM optimum J by UML transpose multiplied by ZMJ divided by sigma ML multiplied by V, whereas U are nothing but the rows of the matrices, SVD, singular value decomposed matrix, whereas V are nothing but the columns of the same matrix. Okay, and what is sigma is nothing but the singular value given by the singular value algorithm. Okay, so basically I am not discussing here the singular value decomposition. So if anyone is interested, you can go that how this equation can be solved by using the singular value decomposition. So this is the problem and this is the solution. Okay, BMJ optimum, BMJ optimum. Okay, this is by direct method. If you are having a sufficiently good software to solve this system, it's okay. If you don't have, then go for the singular value decomposition. You will get the solution by this equation. Okay, so by this way you are calculating this B, that is the required filter. Once the required filter has been computed, The estimation scheme is very simple. Okay. Now, the question remains here that how you are selecting m number of basis functions from L available basis functions such that they are spanning the signal subspace. How do you identify which basis function spans the signal subspace? For that one, what we are doing, we are calculating the energy of the basis function. Okay. Again, going to the backside, okay, to our estimation scheme. Okay, this is the estimation scheme. So energy content of phi 1, energy content of phi 2, energy content of phi 3, and so on. Okay, this one, energy of every basis function has been computed. Now, what do you think here that the energy computation is based on one assumption that we have made here? What is that assumption? That you are having a template signal which is having a priori information, which is having better SNR as compared to the jet signal trial signal to be estimated. Okay, and that's why these subbands are having better SNR as compared to this subband. Okay, that's why you can say here that the signal basis functions phi 1, phi m, phi l, those who are containing higher energies, probably they are belonging to signal subspace, and those are having a lowest energy, few lowest energy, those are spanning the noise subspace, and this assumption works better. That's why we are saying here that we are finding out the set of size m such that the highest energy m number of basis functions, so their energy is a fraction of the total energy. The total energy, see in the denominator I am having here, the total energy of L basis functions in the denominator. Em is nothing but the energy of the mth basis function. M is equal to 1 to L, means you are calculating the total energy of all the basis functions. Okay, in the denominator. In the numerator, you are taking the highest energy basis function such that this ratio should be greater, just greater than or equal to gamma. And gamma is nothing but between 0 to 1. Means you are saying that when gamma is equal to suppose 0.9, you are considering the highest energy basis functions which are containing 90% of the total energy of basis function. Okay. So the basis functions which are having 90% of the highest energy basis function, those are considered only for the basis functions. How this can be implemented? First, the basis functions has been arranged in terms of the highest energy basis function. Then you are adding the energies of the basis functions. First highest energy basis function, second highest energy basis function, what is the energy? And if that energy is suppose 90% of the total energy, take only the first two basis function. If it is still less than, then incorporate the third highest energy basis function. Okay, and so on like this one. So M, capital M, highest energy basis functions are taken as basis functions which are spanning the signal surface, and we'll use only those basis functions and we'll forget all the remaining basis functions. Okay, so this is the total estimation scheme. Okay, now see here that we are saying that when we are considering the minimum norm, okay, means you are designing a filter B such that there should be a minimum mean square error or minimum norm should be there in the basis function and the subband of the trial to be estimated. So how much minimum? What is the minimum value? If the minimum value has to be calculated, how do you calculate the minimum? Okay, so this is the derivation for that minimum. Now see here that take Jm minimum. We have taken this equation. This equation. Do you remember that this equation we have derived this equation? It is nothing but Jm is equal to Em transpose Em. This Em transpose Em has been multiplied. Okay. So this Jm, this equation I have taken as it is. Okay. I'll take this equation, copy. Okay. And see this equation. This is coming here. Okay. So it is one and the same. See Zm transpose Zm, Zm transpose Zm, Zm transpose phi m Bm, Zm transpose phi m Bm. Now here it will be optimum. We are saying that optimum. Okay. Bm transpose phi m transpose Zm, Bm transpose phi m transpose Zm, and B transpose phi transpose, B transpose phi transpose. Again phi m Bm. It is one and the same equation. This equation. Okay. Now I'll delete it. This one. Now, what you are saying here that the design filter, that is BM optimum, is the filter which is responsible for minimum norm. That's why I'm putting here the value of BM optimum. Okay. So, but before that one, see here that what is the value of BM optimum I am putting here. So, what is the value of BM optimum? We have designed it. Okay. What is the value of BM optimum? This is the value of BM optimum. Okay. It should see. Okay. This is BM optimum. I'll take this value here. Okay. This is BM optimum. This is BM optimum. So I am putting the value of BM optimum here. This is the value of BM optimum. Okay. And this is the value I am putting it here. This equation I am writing as it is here. Okay. Only I am putting here this red value, BM optimum. This is red value. So this is red, format, color, and red. Okay. This red. See here, that is one and the same thing. This is one and the same thing. Okay. So phi m transpose phi m inverse, phi m transpose phi inverse, phi m transpose Zn. Okay. Now I'll remove this one. Okay. So you should know from where these equations are coming. These equations we have derived. This equation also we have derived. This one and this one also we have derived. This. Okay. So I'm putting it here. Now see here that phi m transpose phi m inverse, phi m transpose phi m, that is A multiplied by A inverse. Okay. A multiplied by A inverse. This one. Okay. Basically I should write this one. This should be I. This is I. So this is A. If I am saying that this is A, this is A inverse. A multiplied by A inverse is identity matrix. Okay. That's why BM transpose and this phi m transpose Zm. Between this one there is identity matrix. I am writing here this is identity matrix. Okay. Now here, see here that identity matrix means it is as good as this matrix will not be present here. Okay. So BM transpose phi m transpose Zm, BM transpose phi m transpose Zm with negative sign. That's why this will get cancelled. Okay. And that's why what is remaining? Only first two terms, 1 and 2. This is 1 and 2 term as it is plus 0. Okay. So what is again you are putting the value of BM optimum. This is the value of BM optimum. Okay, this red value you are putting it here. That's why this is the minimum norm. Okay, this is the minimum norm. Means the filter BM is responsible for this minimum norm. This is the optimum value that you can obtain with this design BM. You cannot go below this one. Okay, and you can calculate this one for every basis function. Okay, by putting these respective values, you can calculate it. Okay, so this is the corresponding minimum norm that will be achieved as a minimum value by using the filter BM. Okay, and you can claim that this is the minimum thing, this is the optimum thing. Okay, so this is the minimum norm and it is the function of the basis function, that is BM and phi m. So BM is a function of phi m. If you are changing the basis functions, the minimum norm will change. Okay. Now, how the subband decomposition scheme is achieved. So what variations we have used? This is the uniform filter bank, non-uniform filter bank we have used here. Means the subband decomposition schemes that has been used. Wavelet transform, time invariant wavelet transform, stationary wavelet transform, wavelet packet transform, and KL expand. We have used total 7 schemes for generating the basis function. Means for generating the subband decomposition scheme. Okay, so if you are observing, okay, So this is nothing but the slide number 31. I'll show you again the estimation scheme, this one. So this subband decomposition scheme, we have used 7 variations here, okay, and these 7 variations are this one. Uniform filter bank means the basis functions has been generated by the uniform filter bank that we have designed. Non-uniform filter bank, wavelet transform, time invariant wavelet transform, stationary wavelet transform, wavelet packet transform, and KL series expansion. Okay, and now friends, let me tell you here that this is the 52nd lecture of the course wavelet, that is in the application. That's why the total course has been dedicated. First 51 lectures has been dedicated to uniform filter bank, design of uniform filter bank, non-uniform filter bank, and wavelet transform. Okay, so we are directly dealing with the application. That's why I think I'm assuming that you people are familiar with the filter bank concept and filter bank design. Now, how the filter bank has been designed? See here that it's a long journey, but I'll tell you in the short. See, so we have designed a uniform filter bank, which is having L+1 class of filter bank. Those who are knowing the theory of filter bank, they are knowing there is one category of filter bank which is called as the L+1 subfilters or L+1 class of filter bank. Okay, I'll tell you here. So this is a simple triangular filter bank. Okay, so the first prototype filter is designed, and this filter has been shifted on the frequency axis to generate another filter. So the prototype filter has been designed by this method. There is a long way, or there is a big derivation how this filter bank has been designed. Uniform filter bank has been designed. This is the final equation that I am giving you here. Okay, it will again require next 2 hours for the design of this uniform filter bank. I'll just give you how it has been designed. I'll show you just fast slides how this has been designed. But see here that this is the prototype filter, first prototype filter. See this filter. Okay, this filter has been shown here. This is the first prototype filter. Okay, so this is the first variation that has been used, that is called as the uniform filter bank. Second one is a pyramidal scheme that has been generally used in the wavelet literature. This is the pyramidal scheme, means we are only using one branch to be decimated and another undecimated branch, and it will give you a wavelet like of effect. This is the analysis filter bank, this is the synthesis filter bank. Again, the mathematical analysis will take much more time, so we'll bypass this mathematical analysis. Okay, whereas the prototype filter that has been used for this implementation, this H of n, this H of n is this one. Okay, this is the impulse response of the filter that has been used. We have designed this filter. Then the wavelet transform. Okay, we have calculated the average, or generally we are calling as a low frequency or the last residual coefficients of the wavelet transform, AJK. These are the detail coefficients, these are the residual coefficients. Okay, so from these coefficients, how the basis functions has been generated, this is given. So AJK is the residual coefficient, low pass coefficient, these are the high pass coefficients on the jth level. Okay, so by inverting these one, you are getting the basis functions phi n. Okay, again wavelet packet transform, this coefficient has been inverted. You are having a wavelet packet transform, whatever the coefficients on every level you are obtaining, they are inverted and brought back to the time domain to get or to generate the basis function. Okay, and then afterwards, see here that wavelet transform, that is a wavelet transform is basically shift invariant. If you are shifting a signal by 1 or 2 samples, we don't have that relationship constant in the wavelet transform, and that's why if you are shifting the signal or each scale by 2 samples, see what a disastrous signal that you are getting here. That's why it is just to show that wavelet transform shift variant. To make it shift invariant, we have used here 2 concepts, that is time invariant wavelet transform representation and shift invariant wavelet transform representation. Okay, so there are two papers based on time invariant and shift invariant wavelet transform. Those two papers has been implemented here. Okay, and we are choosing a kind of from the base basis functions, means we are having all possible wavelet bases which has been shown here, and out of this one we are choosing the base basis, and that base basis has been taken and inverted for obtaining the basis function. Okay, it's a quite mathematical topic. I am just giving you the final result. See here that this is on this particular scale I am having two options here. On this scale I am having 1, 2, 3, 4 options here. On this scale I am having 8 options, 16, 32 and so on like this one. So out of this one I am selecting one set which is having minimum entropy, and that set has been used here. Okay, so this is translation invariant wavelet transform. These are the mathematical equations given. Okay, now stationary wavelet transform, which is shift invariant wavelet transform, means we are, instead of down sampling the filters, we are up sampling the filter. Okay, we are getting the similar effect, but we are getting a redundant kind of representation. Okay, so this redundant kind of representation is used here for generating the basis function. Okay, so this is the stationary wavelet transform that has been shown here. This is the stationary wavelet transform of the signal. This is the signal, and its wavelet transform has been shown here. Okay, and while calculating the inverse transform, it has been sampled, and these red samples has been shown here. Okay, so those who are knowing the wavelet theory, they might be understanding this one. Otherwise, it is very difficult to understand this particular concept. Okay, so the KL expansion, I think everyone is knowing the optimum KL expansion. That's why I'm not going into much more detail of that one. Only KL expansion is used for generating the basis function that I am telling you. Okay, so these are the simulation results. So we have simulated Yoke potentials and EEG by this equation. This equation has been designed by us. There is a long design procedure for this one. This is VEP has been generated by this one, and EEG has been generated by this design filter. Okay, so these are the simulated signals. Okay, and see here that this is the simulated power spectral density of the simulated Yoke potentials and EEG signals. This has been shown here. And you completely see here that the spectrums are completely overlapping. The red one, okay, so the red one is nothing but the spectrum of a noise, that is EEG, and the blue one is the spectrum of a signal. Okay, both are overlapping, and that's why you cannot use here the frequency selective filter. Okay, so these are the simulated signals and these are their spectra. Okay, so now we observed one problem here. The border distortion is achieved here, and by having a symmetric extension of the signal, which is generally used in the wavelet theory, that has been used here to overcome this particular problem. See this problem, this is a zoomed view. This view has been zoomed here. This is artifact of the method, and this artifact of the method has been reduced here. See here that by extending the basis function has been extended by first order, second order technique, and this problem is removed. Now these are the results. So result on the real VEP data. I'll show you the result on that. These are the estimated signals. See here that all these are the estimated signals. This is the average VEP signal, and this is a single trial to be estimated. So average VEP signal has been decomposed into subbands. These are the subbands shown here. Okay, these are the first subband, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth subband, because fifth level decomposition will gives you 6 subbands here. Okay, now that this particular trial, the 20th trial we have taken in a single data set. Okay, so we are having a bulk database. Out of that one, 20th trial has been selected, and this 20th trial has been estimated. So the blue colored signal is the observed signal, and the red color signal is the original or the estimated signal. Okay, so how the estimation has been achieved in the subband is shown here. Okay, and when you are adding this one, you are getting this particular estimated signal, red estimated signal. Okay. So similarly here. So all these are the results. Every single trial has to be shown here. This is to ensure the cross correlation technique for whether we are getting better estimates or not. All the time the peak is coming at 0 means we are getting the better estimate. Okay. And these are the normative data that has been taken from the single estimate signal. That is, what is the amplitude of P100? What is the mean and deviation? What is the amplitude of N200? What is the mean and deviation? These are the new values that we have proposed. What is the amplitude of P300? Mean and their deviation. Okay. Previously, people are taking the decisions based on this one. We say that instead of taking the decision based on this one, take the decision based on this one. This is better estimate which are available. Okay, like this one. So now I'll directly show you. I think see the border distortion is present here. See here we are having a glitch here. That glitch has been removed here. Okay. And this glitch is present here because we are having a zero phase filter. The design filter BM is a zero phase filter. If it is having 10 samples, at the 10th sample basically you are getting this glitch. Okay. And to remove this glitch, all the basis functions has been extended to the left hand side by 10 additional samples. And we are using first order hold or second order hold for the extension, and see how the signal has been cleaned here. Means only single glitch is not permitted here. You have to get rid of that one. Okay. So like this one. So single trial estimated signal means to ensure here that if the ensemble is having only one trial, can your algorithm will estimate the same? Yes. So this is a single trial estimated. This is the original signal. Blue is the original signal and red is the estimated signal. A single trial has been estimated. Means we have achieved a single trial estimation. And we are calling this as a blind kind of estimation, non-parametric estimation, because we are not assuming any signal model or any noise model. Okay. So with the help of this non-parametric estimation, we have achieved a very good result here. Okay. So these results have been shown here. All these are the estimation results. Now I'll show you the estimated results. Okay, this one, all these are the estimated results. Okay. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. I'll be back within 2 minutes. Hello. So all these are the normative values that we have devised. Now this is a linear scheme. Now we are going for non-linear scheme. Okay. And in short, I'll tell you about the non-linear scheme because we are not going into much more detail because of the time restriction. Otherwise, basically, this is the work that we have done in 4 years. We have took to complete this particular work, and explaining the work of 4 years within 2 to 4 hours is quite difficult. That's why I'm going in a faster manner. So we have proposed some non-linear schemes. Okay. What we have observed here that if you are considering the scale specific variance and entropy of the wavelet coefficients across the trial, we came to know here that the minimum entropy is achieved in the coefficients which are basically responsible better for the estimation. And that's why in case of variance, we are also having a minimum variance. So at every scale, if we are selecting the minimum variance coefficient, few minimum variance coefficients. Okay. Now see here that if I am considering this particular scale, this red 3 coefficients, 1, 2, and 3, these are having minimum variance coefficient. Okay. Now, if you are considering this particular scale, you are having 1, 2, and this one is the third one. Okay. These are the three minimum variance coefficients. Okay. Now, on this particular scale, 1, 2, and 3, these are three minimum variance coefficients. Okay. So, this is the variance. Variance has been shown here. On this particular scale, these are the three minimum variance. If you are selecting only three minimum variance coefficients of the wavelet transform on every scale, okay, here it is very difficult to identify the minimum variance coefficient because it is a high frequency data, and basically these two scales we are not using for the estimation. We are saying that they are having a minimum energy, that's why they are discarded. So remaining one will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Only 4 subbands. On every subband, only 3 coefficients. Okay. So how many total coefficients I am having? I am having a signal which is having 512 samples. So if I am computing a wavelet transform, I will also get 512 coefficients. Out of those 512 coefficients, if I am selecting only 3 coefficients on every scale, and I am having 1, 2, 3, 4 scales, means 4 multiplied by 3, only 12 coefficients. Means out of 512, if I am considering only 12 coefficients, I am getting better estimate. So similarly, the similar case will be happened with minimum entropy coefficient. See, this is the minimum entropy coefficient that has been selected. Okay, either you go for the variance or you go for the entropy. Okay, when you are going for the variance, select the minimum variance coefficient. When you are going for the entropy, select the minimum entropy wavelet coefficient. Okay. On every scale, you are selecting only 3 coefficients. You are considering only 4 scales. So that's why out of 512 coefficients, you are selecting only 3 coefficients which are having minimum variance or minimum entropy. And these 12 coefficients has been inverted back to the time domain for the estimation. This is the algorithm. Get wavelet transform average VP response. Select size of I of M coefficient, means out of this one I am saying that only 4 scales has been chosen. So the size will be 4 here. Okay. Select the coefficients that does not belong to the set I to 0. All other coefficients, means only red coefficient has to be kept as it is, and all other coefficients has to be reduced to 0. Okay, and invert them to back. Okay, so this is the same kind of thing has been for each number of I. Perform the following step. Normalize the coefficients, means the coefficient should be normalized. Get the variance across the trial. Select 3 minimum variance coefficient on every level. From these 3 minimum variance coefficients, select 1 coefficient and 2 coefficients to either side of the selected coefficient. So total 3 coefficients has been selected. Now prepare the time frequency mask and use that time frequency mask. That is nothing but the time frequency filter. Design time frequency filter that has to be used for the estimation. Okay. So see here that these red coefficients are used only, and all other coefficients have been discarded. This is the better estimate that I am getting. Okay. I'll show you the estimated. These are the estimated signals. Okay. These are the estimated and original signal and their spectra. Spectrum has been shown. Okay, like this one. These are the normative limits that has been designed. Okay, these are the single trial. Okay, all the single trial has been shown here. Now see here that instead of showing a single signal, we are showing you a complete set recorded from a single subject. Now see here that to the left hand side, you are having 16 signals. Signal number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to this is a trial number. Okay, recorded from subject number. This is a subject. This is the code words given to the subject because the names cannot be disclosed here. Okay, because of the ethics in the medical practices that are not allowing us to give you the names of this particular subject. There is a code word given to the subject of this particular subject. DJ indicate that this is the code given to the subject. A is the region. Okay, 05 is the code word given for the recording parameters that has been used. O1 is the location of the electrode of which this data is there. This is occipital 1. Okay. T indicate that it is the targeted data. Okay. So this is a code that has been given to a single subject. Okay. So now here, this is a non-uniform filter bank scheme. Means we have generated the basis functions by using the non-uniform filter bank. See here that before 0 we are having pre-stimulus data. After 0 we are having post-stimulus data. So this is the original signal, contour plot of the original signal, and this is the contour plot of the estimated signal. So see here, at 100 millisecond here, this is reddish and yellowish part. This will give you the P100 peak. Okay, this is the P100 peak. Now near about at 200 millisecond here, this is the blue part. Okay, this is N200 component. Okay, and see here again this red and yellowish broad part, this will use the P300 component. Okay, so P100, N200 and P300 components, so which are clearly estimated here, which is clearly visible here. This is another result. This is a non-linear estimation scheme. See here that non-linear estimation schemes are working in a very fine manner. Okay, but the disadvantages of this non-linear estimation scheme is that for every type of particular visual F potentials or auditory F potentials, for the scheme which has been devised for the visual F potentials may not work with auditory F potentials, or the scheme which has been devised for the auditory F potentials may not work for somatosensory F potentials. Means for all three classes you have to redefine this particular scheme. Okay, because you are saying that 3 minimum variance coefficient, 3 may not be, 3 are sufficient for visual F potential. It may not be sufficient for auditory F potentials, or it may not be sufficient for somatosensory F potential. So we have not tried it for another kind of F potential. But the linear schemes, they do not based on any assumption, and that's why for any kind of F potentials, whether it will be auditory, visual, or somatosensory, it is working well, and it has been tested for all other kind of potential. Okay. So in the nonlinear estimation scheme, see here, for all the noise has been removed. Okay, this is P100 component, red and yellowish component. This is N200 component, okay, blue, and this is P300 component. Okay, like this one. So we are getting better estimate. This one, see here that second subject, there's the first subject, there's the second subject. Okay, so now in case of non-linear estimation scheme or linear estimation scheme, now whether whatever estimation that we have got it, whether this estimation is really obtained by using the designed estimation scheme, or it is the artifact, it may be the artifact of the estimation scheme. Okay, and the artifacts are near about the good estimation scheme, and that's why you may saying that your signals are estimated, so it has been verified. So how it has been verified, and for this verification purpose we have also recorded the pre-stimulus data. This is the reason why the pre-stimulus data has been recorded. So we are applying, we have separated the pre-stimulus and post-stimulus data. Means out of 512 samples, first 256 samples represent the pre-stimulus data which do not have EP. It is having only noise, that is only EEG. Okay, and the post-stimulus data, that is from 0, means sample number 256, 1 to 256 pre-stimulus, 257 to 512, that is post-stimulus data, which is containing noise and signal, both components. That is F potentials as well as EEG component. Okay, to this separate data sets, the estimation scheme has been employed. Okay, and are you getting the similar consistency? See here, in the pre-stimulus data, we are not having any band here which is giving you P100. There is no a continuous band which is giving you N200 and P300. No such correlation has been found here because signal is not there. So when signal is there, this is now P100, okay? This is N200 band and this is P300 band, okay? Means only if the signal is present, it is estimated. If the signal is not present, it is not estimated. Means it is not the artifact of the system. It is really the algorithm is working and giving you the estimation of the signal. Okay. So this is the verification. Okay. So this is the summary of the results. This is not of much more interest because this is just what we have observed. Which scheme is working better? What are the limitations? Nothing more than that one. Okay. So these are the conclusion. We have proposed linear and non-linear estimation. All are non-parametric, capable of single trial estimation. We are getting a better improved SNR, that is guaranteed SNR improvement is there, means better estimations are obtained. New quality measure is proposed that I have not discussed it because of the shortage of the time. Another scheme has also been proposed to get the better average Q potential that has not been discussed here because of the shortage of the time. Basis and scale specific information is also available in this technique. The best linear scheme is stationary wavelet transform that as we have evaluated, and best non-linear estimation scheme both are working well. Okay. So direction for the future work. So we are selecting the length of the filter. We are saying that the length of the filter is near about 16 to 20, not more than that. Not necessary that it should be 16 to 20. For another kind of potentials, it may be different. So there should be an algorithm, adaptive algorithm to select the proper length of the filter. Design of wavelet directly from the underlying EP signal can also be done. We have used the generalized wavelet, that is the Botch's wavelet we have used here. Okay, you can design your own wavelet. Weighting of non-linear and non-linear estimation scheme can be done to get the better estimate. Okay, soft thresholding for non-linear estimation schemes has to be devised. You may devise or determine the physiological significance of the single trial variation within an individual and across the individual. New normative limits can be designed or can be laid down, and better definitions of average VPs can be laid down from the subband latency corrected average technique, which has not been discussed here in this presentation because of shortage of time. Okay, so these are direction of the future work. So this is what I wanted to present. This is a simple block schematic I have given you. Okay, this is not a complete estimation scheme. There are many more details, many more mathematical things that have been bypassed because in such kind of courses, people are not mostly interested in the mathematical things. That's why I have skipped much of the mathematics. Okay, what is only required that has been taken. So I think I'll stop here and keep open the floor for the discussion. If you are having any difficulties in this discussion, I will try to solve your difficulty. Samarth, are you online?
Yes, sir.
So if someone is having difficulty, he may ask the difficulty.
Participants, if you have any question, any general question also related to your research, you can please ask, sir. Participants, any questions, any queries you have regarding the topic, or you can post the question in the chat box. Any questions? So one question has been posted in the chat box.
1 minute, let me. For random signals, which is suitable linear or non-linear analysis? See, I think you are talking about the methods that I have developed. Yes, yes. So all these are the random signals. What do you mean by random signal? They are stochastic signals. There is another name to the random signals, is stochastic signal. So from a very first of these two lectures, I am saying that the signal as well as the noise, both are stochastic, means both are random signals, and both the methods are working for these signals. That's why there is as such no that this method will work for the random signal and this will not work for the random. All these are the stochastic signals. And see, whenever you are going for any physiological signal or biomedical signal, all they are random signals. Okay, and for the analysis or the estimation of these random signals or stochastic signals, many more techniques are available. Okay, so it is not like that that method is working for a random signal and the method is not working for the random signal, because we are not assuming here that this method has been developed only for the random signal. Okay, and see, in practice most of the signals are random signals. No signal is deterministic, because have you seen that in the real practice you are dealing with a pure sinusoid or pure cosine wave? No. Okay, in nature everything is random, and these methods are working for random signals, both the methods, linear as well as non-linear methods. So have you got your answer? There is one possibility most of the time, see here, that non why we are calling them as a non-linear method, and why these methods has been devised into two domain, linear and non-linear. In linear methods you are basically using the linear combination of the basis functions. Okay, in non-linear method there is no such linear combination has been used here. Only you are selecting particular coefficients, and there nothing like that if there is a certain linear rule for selecting the coefficient. One coefficient may be selected from one location, another coefficient may be selected from another location. This location may not be consecutive or may be consecutive. That's why we are calling them as a non-linear technique. There is always fear in non-linear technique that the method may get failed sometimes. That's why even though non-linear techniques are giving you better answers or better estimates, generally they are avoided. Because why you are calling them as a non-linear? The basic meaning of the non-linear thing is that in case of a linear thing, if you are changing the input by a very small fraction, output will also be changed by the same fraction. This is the linearity. What is non-linearity? If you are changing the input by a very small fraction, but you are observing a greater change in the output, then it is a non-linear technique. So by mistake, if a wrong coefficient has been selected, you cannot give the guarantee that how the estimation will be. That's why generally non-linear technique has been avoided. Got the answer? Yeah. In case of non-linear techniques, the complexity is less, definitely. But nowadays we are having faster machines. Speed is not a problem, and whatever the techniques that has been developed, they will not require much more time. Even in case of linear technique, that's why they can be easily used in the operating environment, operating room environment. They will give you the estimate within few microseconds, not more than that. All the time linear schemes are having higher complexity, non-linear schemes are having lower complexity. There are many more advantages of the linear scheme, but also there is one fear also in case of a non-linear estimation, that they can be filled at any time. So any other?
Participants, any other questions you have? Any more questions?
So the thing is that when we are discussing the things in such a course, we are giving the abstract information. it does not mean that everyone has to be, every concept has to be clear. That is not the intention. And that's why this is only the field, and this is the work that we have done in this particular field. Okay, this is only the introductory information that we have been given. We have taken 4 years to develop these estimation schemes, and they cannot be explored in 4 hours. That is only a kind of abstract that I have given to you. Okay, just introduced only one additional field to it.
Participants, you can ask any general questions if you have, regarding the research.
General questions also we can address them.
So I think,
If
yes,
the
sir.
participants are not having any questions,
Any
then
question? Yeah, so we can,
shall we wind it up?
yes, sir, we can wind up the session up.
Okay, thank you very much. If you are
Yes.
having any difficulty, Samarth is having my mail. You can ask the difficulties on the mail also.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Announcement to participants. We already emailed you the feedback of today's session. Make sure that you fill the form by 5 p.m. today.
Thank you, sir.